welcome.
Need translation? Remember that you can plug your earphones in the arm rest and then you will be fine. So welcome to the second day of Spark, and I hope you really enjoyed last night, and I see that many people enjoyed because they are not here today. So we have a long day today. We are going to talk about sustainability, and then we will also have time to recognize people's work. And then we will finish the day with some workshops. So when we talk about sustainability in telecenters, we are referring to financial sustainability. As funding sources for telecenters have changed over the years, new models of sustainability have emerged. This includes providing services for fees and working in partnerships with private sectors. One example of sustainability is Open Entry. This organization provides tools for individuals to create online stores. Open Entry has a booth here in Spark, so I recommend you to go past and stop and get some more information because it's a very interesting initiative, Open Entry. Now we are going to listen to a representative of an organization known for creating new and relevant services. His name is Rodrigo Baggio. He's one of the world's most recognized and respected social entrepreneurs. Pioneer of digital inclusion in Latin America, in 1995 he founded Center for Digital Inclusion. So let's please receive him with a warm applause.
Para mí es un gusto estar aquí en Granada, esa ciudad.
It's a pleasure to be here in Granada, such a beautiful city, and share this experience with you all. We in CDI started working in Brazil in 1995 as a social organization pioneer in the use of technology to change lives and develop low-income communities. We started in March 1995 before the opening to internet for this Brazilian society. We created a model within the first center that we started. It was a model of social franchise. In our telecenters, we call them CDI communities. We have three main objectives. First of all, our community technological centers must be self-sustainable financially. This was always essential for us from the first day we started to work, because this gave us autonomy for the people in the communities that work in these CDIs. Then and the second objective, the referring. The people from the community, facilitators, educators, are the referrals of these communities. And then third objective, the pedagogical proposal of the CDI inspired by the Brazilian Paulo Freire. And we have to train people for change. And this is the heart of the CDI. We want to train our students to use technology so that they can identify challenges, issues, and then act specifically to change their communities. So we started these CDIs with these three objectives for the most violent low-income community in Rio de Janeiro at that point. Nowadays, we have 780 community CDIs working in 16 Brazilian regions from 12 countries. It was more than 1.5 billion of low-income people in these 12 countries we're working in. And we nowadays have 1,007 IT educator and citizenship educator who work in these 12 countries in these low-income communities. We started creating CDI communities, and not just in
em cárcere, em
favelas, but also in jails, in organizations that work for people with physical or mental disabilities. And we worked in a high security prison in 1997 in Rio de Janeiro. Just there, I met the man who invented abduction in Brazil. Now he's innovation consultant on criminality for the most relevant gangs in Rio de Janeiro. This man was in charge for introducing the drugs throughout the whole region of Rio de Janeiro and other regions in Brazil. He spent 14 years in that jail. And when we started the community CDI for the IT education, it changed his life. He started being an educator. Then he participated in the schools. He didn't just teach technologies for the inmates, but also for the policemen of his jail. He started training policemen, IT and citizenship. He left the jail for good behavior, and he created a CDI school in his community. He started being a positive leader in his community. He started teaching IT, citizenship, and entrepreneurship for the whole jail system in Brazil. Now he has over 150 micro companies created by over 150 people, schools in Rio de Janeiro. So he's an example of how technology can change lives and develop communities. But in most of our schools, we have as a sustainability financial model, financial sustainability model, we teach over 20 courses from basic technology to more advanced technology. These courses were created as also a symbol for people from the community to be able to contribute with a small financial contribution that makes it possible for us to pay the educator as well as the maintenance of the internet. Another sustainability model we have is the services. We map over 30 services which are relevant for communities, electronic governance, CD, DVD copies, make pictures, print them, graphic services. All these services enable the telecenter to be relevant in their communities, and it also gives incomes. It provides incomes to these centers. And also another positive impact on the sustainability of telecenters is micro companies. We have 3 social business plans where we stimulate each of our telecenters to implement 1 or 2 or 3 of these micro entrepreneurship. The first one is a maintenance center to repair computers. We teach our students, to repair computers, and after a week, they are ready to service computer repair in their communities or in their environments, to install local networks, software, antivirus systems. They can install software. So it's very interesting because the students can learn and then generate income for themselves and for their communities. The second micro-entrepreneurship is a community interface internet. We create a community internet cafe so that people have access to internet and so that it generates income. And then the third micro entrepreneurship is printing flyers, folders, business cards, We do also, our students do websites. They do a lot of graphic services for communities and the companies from the environment. In our 780 centers that we have in our communities, a third of them is fully self-sustainable financially. Another third is in the process of becoming financially self-sustainable. But this also helps the community to get more management know-how to implement these centers. And another center will not be self-sustainable if they're in a psychiatric hospital or hospitals or jails or in indigenous communities. But we guarantee the sustainability through associations with townships, companies, foundations that help in developing these centers that are located in places that are not financially sustainable. When we started working with indigenous communities, it's interesting because we now have 30 CDI centers in indigenous communities in the Amazon. We started with the Ashaninka community. The Ashaninka were here previous to the Incas. The Incas disappeared, and the Ashaninkas kept on, went on living with their know-how in the Amazonian forest, the rainforest. This community of the Ashaninka is 7 kilometers ahead from away from the Peruvian border. Their most challenge was that Peruvian drug smugglers went across the border to smuggle drugs, and they called indigenous people. They raped indigenous women, and one day the Ashaninka made the decision to declare the war against the Peruvian drug smugglers. And at this point, they analyzed the situation and they saw that drug smugglers had automatic rifles, and the indigenous population only had arrows, and they were very worried. But the shaman had a great idea. They said, "We have a super powerful weapon." And they said, "What? Which one?" He said, "Internet." Then they made the decision to write an email to President Lula, and they said, "President Lula, we Ashaninka are fighting a war to protect Brazil's sovereignty, and the armed forces are not in our territory, but we as in Brazilian indigenous want to go to war to protect the sovereignty in Brazil." And this email started a whole movement. Social organizations in Brazil started this movement. The president of the republic sent an email to the Brazilian armed force, who sent helicopters that flew over the indigenous territory, and drug smugglers had to leave that area, and the Ashaninka won the war because they used internet to negotiate peace. And this is a really important example of how internet is freedom, is a liberation tool for most diverse communities. We, since 4 years ago, started a new initiative in Brazil in the field of social business. How many of you have heard of social businesses? Please raise your hands. Yes, this is a very interesting alternative, and it's a very innovative one in the field of social entrepreneurship. In social business is not a business, and it's not a social organization, and it's not a government. It's a hybrid of everything. Social business combines companies with NGOs as a purpose business. In Brazil, we created the Internet Cafe CDI, which objective was to affiliate community internet cafes and changing these internet cafes into a different kind of business at the basis of the pyramid. And we affiliated over 6,500 community internet cafes all over Brazil. Over 1 million people per month are users of these internet cafes.
e frequentam esses internet cafés.
And we started developing services.
Produtos para empresas.
We started developing products for other companies who use these land centers, community land centers or internet cafes. And this was also a very interesting initiative within the CDI. And very often these social businesses are the most relevant innovation to guarantee financial sustainability and to have a social impact in our LAN centers or in our telecenters. Sorry, in the CDIs won over 60 international prizes, awards, and we learned many things. But for me, the most relevant thing is that when you use the technology as a citizenship tool, not only can we change lives and develop communities, but we can also change our society, our countries. Our countries can become a real e-democracy with more freedom and more solidarity. This is our e-utopia. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.